Hey guys, so editing Caitlin here. I realized way too late that I had way too much to say about this book to fit in one video. So, this first part that you're on right now is just going to be the spoiler free review, and then I'm going to have a second video that is just for spoilery chats for people who have already read the book and want to hear and discuss, some of the fun stuff that happened in it. So enjoy! Hi guys, welcome to my channel today. I'm going to be doing a book review of this bad boy, The Arm of the Sphinx, which is the second book in the book's Babel series, follows up Senlin Ascends, and guys, this book is so good. I rated Senlin Ascends a 4.5 out of 5, or with my new rating system, a 9 out of 10, which is really, really high, and this book I want to rate even higher than that. This is an amazing sequel, guys. So I want to warn anyone who is going to listen into this video that if you have not read Senlin Ascends, stop, pause, go read Senlin Ascends, because even though this first part of the video is going to be spoiler free, it's going to spoil things for Senlin Ascends because I can't not. It's not possible. So please, if you have not read Senlin Ascends, go and read it so you don't spoil anything for you, because trust me, you don't want anything spoiled for you for that book. The setup for the story is that Senlin and the crew have been flying around being pirates for a little while after escaping from New Babel, and they are looking for some direction because Senlin is now realizing, oh my gosh, what am I going to do? We can't stay out here forever. Like, we're running out of food, we're running out of money. We can only pretend to be pirates for so long. And so they head into a kind of like off the beaten track, will let anybody in, like pirate port on the side of the tower. And Senlin goes looking for some advice, and he finds a person who's able to give him some sort of clue and direction on where to go to get into Pelthea to find his wife, because at the end of the last book we found out that she's in this ringdom, the one that's above New Babel, and she's been kind of taken captive by this duke. She was duped into it, and so Senlin needs to go find her. And so he gets this direction from this person and is told, you need to go to the next ringdom, which is called the Silk Gardens, and go and find this mysterious man who lives at the Golden Zoo, which is this mysterious place that we don't know anything about that's in the center of the Silk Gardens. And this really cool ringdom is above Pelthea, and it's apparently been abandoned. And I don't really want to say anything more about it because it's really, really interesting, and I don't want to ruin that for anyone who has not read it yet. So I really love the setting of this story. It takes place in the skies on their ship in this crazy pirate port. You have this new ringdom that we have yet to explore, and then some other places that I don't want to mention that are really cool too. So you don't get like this recycling. You don't stay in the same place the whole time, so it kind of adds this exciting, refreshing bit to the story. Now, Bancroft's writing is still beautiful, just like it was in Senlin Ascends, but I think it actually gets even better. For a debut novel, Senlin Ascends was like really good. I had to remind myself before I shot this video that, wow, it was Bancroft's debut novel and that he self-published it to begin with, which just boggles my mind. But his writing only got better in this round, and I feel like the way that he writes, there are phrases that he used in this story that really like just struck me, and I had to like put tabs on them and stuff. My favorite one, I think, was he's describing how they're running out of food on the ship, and when they're forced to like eat things that aren't really good. He says that the seasoning of hunger, which I just thought was a really, really cool, really clever line. And it just really made me feel something about the situation that I don't really know if any other wording would have made me feel. Now, I did have one qualm last time about the story and about his writing, which was I thought he used too many similes and it took me out of the story. This time, I didn't have that problem. I feel like that was fixed. I feel like the similes that he did use, they weren't as often as it was in the previous book, and that they weren't as jarring. So he definitely got better in that route. Now, I did have still had one little con for this story. Um, it's not absolutely 100% perfect, but it's pretty dang close. And my one con is that there are a couple moments in which there are these pretty obvious plot conveniences. Oh, I found this thing that, just happens to be the thing we need. But it's not so convenient that it's completely out of the blue. And honestly, I didn't mind it because the plot conveniences that were there were really required in order for the story to move the way it did. And so I can't really blame him too much for that. I don't think it was done super poorly. I just was like, well, that was kind of convenient a couple of times. Other than that, I thought it was great. Another cool thing that I really enjoyed about Bancroft's writing in this story is that instead of just having everything from Senlin's point of view, which we had last time, he uses multiple point of views at points in the story where our characters kind of split off from each other. And so I think it's really refreshing to get those new point of views. Even though we didn't have them in the first book, it does feel natural in this one. And so I liked getting into other characters' heads because it helps you explore those secondary characters that we didn't get to get their inner monologue as much in the previous book. And also at some point we get a point of view from diary entries, which I thought is really clever too. And I think that the setting and the place in the book where this happens, if it wasn't in diary form, it wouldn't have had the impact that it does. And so I think Bancroft was really clever when he decided to use that. So I think his writing is just getting better. His usage of the characters is getting better. And so I don't even know what to expect for the Hot King because it's just, I just imagine it's going to be this masterpiece. I'm crossing my fingers. I really hope it is. And it'll be even better when the fourth one comes out. So my favorite part about the story when I read Selena Sons was the character work, and that still definitely carries over into this book. Because we kind of have a ragtag group of people and our main characters all together, there's more room for character development than there was in the last book because, we just had Senlin and we were meeting everyone. Senlin himself goes through a lot of growth and a lot of change in this story. When we first see him, they're pirating, and he has been so worried about losing who he is throughout being in the tower, and he's so dedicated to being this good person that he's pirating, but pirating with a conscience. And so he refuses to do anything that's super ruthless. He doesn't kill people just to kill them. And so he's this pirate with scruples, and it's just exciting to see how he pulls things off because he does piratey things and gets away with it. But it's also refreshing because he's like, no, we're not going to do the ruthless way, even though it would make things easier for us because we have to stand with our high moral ground. And I appreciate that from Senlin. You also see him reflecting on his relationship with Maria over the course of the book and starting to worry about, have I changed too much? Is she still going to love me when she sees me again? Or has the tower corrupted me too much? And that's a thread and a question that he brings up multiple times throughout the story, which I was starting to wonder at the end of Senlin Ascends. So I'm glad that it's kind of coming to the forefront in here and that it's something we see in Senlin's mind. We do learn more about Edith and her bionic arm in this story, and that becomes a center focus. And Edith seems to know way more about the tower than she's letting on. And she kind of alluded to that at the end of the last book. And so we sort of figure out what she knows and what she doesn't know during this book. And that is illuminating. And her experiences in the tower bring a lot to how she responds to things that are happening now. And so because she hasn't shared that with the other characters, a lot of them they don't understand why she acts certain ways. And once we uncover that, once Bancroft delivers that to us, a lot of things start making more sense. And so I like that because we're getting these puzzle pieces and Bancroft does this great job of helping us put them all together. Valletta, we learn a lot more about her. She has some character growth, mostly happening in the second half of the story, but we learn more about her and see her more in action because I feel like in Senlin Ascends, you only got so much of her, and in here you could spend more time with her and see her interacting with individual characters and out on her own. And you see that she's not necessarily as completely immature as you think she is, especially at the end of the last book. She has these moments of maturity, and I feel like she really like understands other people but has a hard time like dealing with her own emotions because of the trauma that she's been through, and that's why she tends to be more reckless. And watching her relationships grow with all the other characters, specifically between her and Iron during the story, that's just like, it's so beautiful and it's so masterfully done. I love it. People who have not read this book, like, you're going to have such a fun time with the character relationships in here. Now, Adam, I think he has the least amount of character development in the story. He comes and enters into the story, having betrayed Senlin and them at the end of the last book, but still being allowed to come on the ship and still like being part of the crew. And so he has to deal with people not trusting him and living with the fact that he betrayed this man who was his friend and who trusted him. And he spends most of his time in this story trying to figure out a way to get Senlin to trust him again and to get back in his good graces. And so that's his like focus, and takes him down a quite interesting path. So when it comes to Iron is probably one of my favorite characters now that I've read this book. She wasn't when I read Silent Ascends, and how Bancroft explores her story and touches on what it's like to be an older woman in this kind of environment. You find out that Iron is about 55 years old. I don't think that's a spoiler. They just put a number on it in the book. And most of the time in fantasy novels, like, you don't have main characters that are at that stage in their life unless they're like the wizened sorcerer, the kind wizard who's helping you out, and they don't have like these kind of challenges. But with Iron, he gets to explore what it means to be aging in a world like this and how that affects someone who is a warrior woman. Because that's basically what she is, even though they wouldn't call them warriors. Her relationship with the rest of the characters is great. I just really like, I didn't expect her to be my favorite character, and she's probably not. No, she is my favorite character. I didn't expect her to be my favorite character, and she is, and I love her. And so I'm excited for all of you who haven't read this book yet to explore what Iron goes through in this story. When it comes to the actual like story and how it's presented by Bancroft, I feel like Arm of the Sphinx like starts off with a bang, and it really just like moves from just in the get-go. Last book, Selena Ascends, I really feel like it didn't pick up and really engage me until we reached the parlor. But now it's just as soon as you open the book and the first page, it's like boom, we're in the middle of this thing and you're ready to go. And so I think Bancroft has grown in that way, that like his pacing is better in this book. I never was bored. I never felt like I was waiting for something to happen, and there wasn't like tons of exposition or super big info dumps that didn't feel natural within like the conversations and the stuff in the story. Last time he brought up some certain topics that I really enjoyed, and in this one he kind of touches on different things. So he talks about technology a lot. That's a big subject in this book, and it's not just like what does technology do to a person. It's how does technology affect an individual, how it affects a group of people, and how it affects civilization and society as a whole. It also touches upon responsibility of those who create technology, and a big question of, if you create technology and let people use it, are you partially responsible for what they do with it? If it's something nefarious or evil or harming other people, and do you, as someone who develops this technology, have the duty or the obligation, I would say obligation actually, to keep it out of the hands of people who would use it for evil? So these are big questions, and I just like, it made me think about that throughout the whole book, especially as we get to the second half and things really start going down and you learn a lot more about the tower itself. I found it really engaging, and one of the things that I super love about these books is just how challenging they are and how much they make me think when I'm reading them. Senlin Ascends made me think, but this one kind of upped that with the conversations that we see characters having with each other and the whole concept of the tower and what we learn about it in here. On top of learning more about the tower, we also learn about the Hods some more and about this mysterious figure, the Sphinx. And so that just adds more richness to this world and adds more mysteries. Like with Senlin Ascends, when I reached the end of the book, I felt like a lot of the mysteries that I had been exposed to and the questions that I had while I was reading the book, I felt like those were nicely wrapped up for, like, I don't know, the first 7/8 of the book. And then the very last bit, all these other things showed up and you were like, wait, now I have all these other questions, and they were leading into the second story, and all of those have been answered, and now again I have more questions for the next book. This is great for me because I love being challenged by things I've read. I don't like when everything is like tied up in a little bow. I understand for some people it might be frustrating, and that's perfectly fine. But I feel like there is that sense of completion, but then there's all this other mystery that's added on. I think it's kind of the perfect way of writing in these like little cliffhangers and tidbits of information that lead you to having all these questions, because you're just waiting and you're like salivating for the next book. Like, I cannot wait to read The Hot King. I want to get to it as soon as possible. Buddy reads are going to be the death of me. I did not know this when I entered into BookTube, but as soon as I have the opportunity, I'm going to read The Hot King. I'm hoping to get to it in May. And so this is going to be the end of my like spoiler-free part of the conversation. So if you have not read The Armor of the Sphinx, please turn this off now. I hope you take all the things that I have said that I loved about this story and the few things that I said that people might not enjoy, and go and just read The Armor of the Sphinx because it's amazing.